Ethan Blackwood stared at his phone screen, his jaw tightening as he read the group email about the upcoming Christmas trip to the Mediterranean. The annual family tradition, stretching back 15 years, had always been a highlight of their year. But this time, something was different. His name was conspicuously absent from the itinerary. The tech company he built from scratch hummed around him, developers and project managers rushing past his glass-walled office. He had sacrificed countless hours to build this empire, always with one goal in mind: to provide the best life possible for his family. Unlike his own father, George, who treated his children as mere accessories to his success, Ethan had sworn to be different. He scrolled through the email again, scrutinizing every detail. Clara and Sophia were scheduled for the full 2-week trip, their names appearing multiple times throughout the detailed agenda. The pit in his stomach grew deeper. His intercom buzzed. "Mr. Blackwood, your wife is here." Clara walked in, her designer boots clicking against the floor. Her auburn hair was freshly styled, and she carried herself with an artist's natural grace. The same grace that had captivated him during their college days, when she was the vibrant art student who saw beauty in everything. "Clara," he said, turning his monitor toward her. "Care to explain this?" She glanced at the screen, her expression carefully neutral. "Oh, the Christmas trip. I thought Mom and Dad told you." "Told me what exactly?" His voice remained steady and controlled. "Well," she fidgeted with her phone. A recent habit that set his teeth on edge. "They thought it might be nice for Sophia and me to have some quality time. You're always so busy with work, and I'm busy providing for this family." He cut in. "Since when does that exclude me from family traditions?" Clara's phone buzzed. She glanced at it reflexively, her fingers moving to respond before she caught herself and tucked it away. "Ethan, please don't make this into something it's not." "It's just a trip," she said quickly. "Who keeps texting you?" he asked. "What?" "Your phone. It's constant these days. Art classes, lunch with friends. You're barely home anymore." Her cheeks flushed. "Are you spying on me?" "Noticing my wife's behavior isn't spying, Clara," he replied. "This is exactly why everyone thought some space would be good." She snapped. "You're suffocating me with your constant questions and accusations." Ethan leaned back in his chair, studying her. The woman before him was increasingly unrecognizable from the one he had married. "Everyone? Who's everyone?" he asked. "Your parents," she replied. "My parents. Aaron." The name hung in the air between them. "Your art friend, Aaron." Clara's phone buzzed again. This time, he caught a glimpse of the screen before she snatched it away. The message preview showed a heart emoji. "I have to go," she said quickly. "I have a class." "Another art class?" His voice dripped with skepticism. "Yes, another art class. Some of us have aspirations beyond making money." Clara turned and strode out, leaving behind the faint scent of her perfume and a growing sense of unease. Ethan pulled up his sister Natalie's number. If anyone knew what was really going on, it would be her. "Natalie, we need to talk," he said. Natalie's voice was hesitant, unusual for his typically forthright sister. "I was just about to call you." "What's going on with this Christmas trip? Why am I being excluded?" A long silence followed. "There's something you need to know. Can you meet me?" 30 minutes later, Ethan sat across from Natalie at a quiet cafe several blocks from his office, her hands wrapped around her coffee cup, knuckles white with tension. "Just tell me," he said. Natalie took a deep breath. "Clara's having an affair with Aaron." The words hit him like a physical blow, but he maintained his composure. "How long have you known?" he asked. "A few weeks. I saw them together at that new restaurant in the city center." They weren't exactly being discreet. Natalie reached for his hand. "Ethan, there's more." "Aaron. He's going on the Mediterranean trip." Ethan withdrew his hand, his expression hardening. "Tell me everything you know about him." "He's an art dealer. Works with several galleries in the city. He's known Clara for years, apparently." Natalie hesitated. Mom and Dad, they know about it. They're helping Clara keep it quiet. Our parents are facilitating my wife's affair," he said, his voice eerily calm. "They say they're protecting the family image. You know how they are about appearances." Natalie's disgust was evident. "They're worried about how a divorce would look, especially with your company's upcoming IPO." Ethan stood abruptly. "Thank you for telling me the truth. What are you going to do?" "Nothing for now. I need to understand the full scope of this betrayal first." His smile didn't reach his eyes. Over the next few days, Ethan maintained his routine. He went to work, came home at his usual time, and acted as if nothing had changed. But beneath the surface, he was gathering information. He hired a private investigator, installed monitoring software on their home network, and began documenting every suspicious interaction. The evidence mounted quickly. Clara's art classes were meetings with Aaron at his downtown loft. The lunch dates with friends were romantic rendezvous at expensive restaurants. The late-night phone calls were passionate conversations with her lover. But the most damaging discovery came from Sophia, his 16-year-old daughter, the light of his life, who had been keeping their secret. He found her in the kitchen one evening, working on her homework. Clara was at another art class. "Sophia," he said, sitting across from her, "we need to talk about your mother." She kept her eyes on her textbook. "I'm really busy with this assignment, Dad." "Look at me." His tone brooked no argument. Sophia slowly raised her head, her eyes already filling with tears. "Please don't," she whimpered. "How long have you known about Aaron?" I don't know what you're talking about." Her hands trembled as she gripped her pencil. "Don't lie to me." "Not you too." His voice was soft, but carried an edge that made her flinch. The pencil snapped in her grip. "Mom said, she said it would hurt you too much. She made me promise not to tell." "And you agreed to lie to me, to help them deceive me," he accused. Tears spilled down her cheeks. "I'm sorry, Dad. I didn't know what to do. Mom said if I told you, it would destroy our family." Ethan laughed harshly, a sound devoid of humor. "Your mother already destroyed our family when she chose to betray me, and you helped her do it. Please don't be angry." "I'm not angry, Sophia. I'm disappointed. I thought I'd raised you better than this," he said, standing up. "Go to your room. I need to think." Sophia fled upstairs. Ethan poured himself a glass of whiskey and sat in the darkness of his home office. The betrayal was complete. His wife, his daughter, his parents, they had all chosen to deceive him to protect Clara's affair rather than his dignity. When Clara returned home later that night, she found him waiting in the kitchen. The evidence of her infidelity was spread across the table: photographs, text messages, hotel receipts. "Sit down," he commanded. She froze in the doorway, her face draining of color. "Ethan, I can explain." "Sit down," he repeated firmly. She sank into a chair, her eyes fixed on the Danning collection before her. "Did you really think I wouldn't find out? Did you think you could humiliate me like this and get away with it?" he asked coolly. "It's not what you think." "Don't," he interrupted, holding up a hand. "Don't insult my intelligence with denials. I know everything about Aaron, about the Mediterranean trip, about how long this has been going on. I know our parents have been covering for you. I know our daughter has been lying for you." Clara's defiance crumbled. "I never meant to hurt you, but you did, deliberately and repeatedly." Deliberately and repeatedly, he gathered the evidence into a neat pile. "I want you out of my house. Both of you, tonight." "Ethan, please," Clara pleaded. "You have 1 hour to pack your essentials. Anything you leave behind will be donated or destroyed. I've already contacted my lawyers. They'll be serving you with divorce papers tomorrow." "You can't do this. Where are we supposed to go?" she cried. His smile was cold and ruthless. "I'm sure Aaron has room at his loft. After all, you've been spending enough time there already." Clara burst into tears, but Ethan remained unmoved. He had shed his last tear for her the day Natalie revealed her betrayal. "Now, There was only ice in his veins. As Clara stumbled upstairs to pack, Ethan made a series of calls. By morning, Clara's access to their joint accounts would be revoked, her credit cards canceled, her name removed from their club memberships and social circles. He would dismantle her comfortable life piece by piece, just as she had destroyed his. The sound of suitcases being dragged down the stairs signaled the end of his marriage. Clara and Sophia stood in the foyer, their faces tear-stained and fearful. "Dad, please," Sophia begged, "don't make us leave. You made your choice when you chose to lie for her." His voice was devoid of emotion. "Actions have consequences. It's time you both learned that lesson." He watched from the window as they loaded their bags into Clara's car and drove away into the night. The house felt empty, but his heart felt emptier. The life he'd built, the family he'd cherished, had been nothing but an elaborate deception. Ethan Blackwood poured himself another whiskey and began to plan. This wasn't the end. It was merely the beginning. Clara, Aaron, his parents, even Sophia, they would all learn the true cost of betrayal. He would make sure of it. The December rain pelted against Ethan's office windows as he immersed himself in his investigation. His computer screen glowed with social media profiles, email records, and bank statements. A digital trail of betrayal that grew more extensive with each passing day. His private investigator had delivered a comprehensive report that morning. Aaron wasn't just Clara's lover. He had been a constant presence in their lives for years. Photos from gallery openings, charity events, and family gatherings showed him lurking in the background, always watching Clara with poorly concealed desire. Ethan's mouth hovered over a Facebook album from 3 years ago. Clara and Aaron stood close together at an art exhibition, their body language intimate even then. His wife's smile was radiant, genuine in a way it hadn't been with him for years. A notification popped up. New photos from the Mediterranean trip. His fingers tightened on the mouse as he clicked through them. Clara and Sophia posing in front of Christmas markets, shopping bags in hand. His parents, George and Margaret, playing the doting grandparents. And there, in image after image, was Aaron, integrated into his family as if he belonged there. "Mr. Blackwood," his assistant's voice came through the intercom. "Your daughter is trying to reach you. Should I put her through?" Ethan stared at a particularly damning photo, Aaron's arm around Clara's waist, Sophia laughing at something he'd said. "No. Tell her I'm in meetings all day." He opened another tab, accessing the hidden profiles he discovered. Clara and Aaron had been careless, their passion making them sloppy. Their messages to each other painted a vivid picture of their affair. "I've loved you since the day we met," Clara had written. "Ethan was always a means to an end, a way to escape my parents' control. But you understand my soul." Aaron's response made Ethan's blood boil. "Soon, my love, once the divorce is finalized, you will no longer have to hide. My money will set us up nicely, and we can finally be together openly." A knock at his office door interrupted his dark thoughts. Natalie entered, her face etched with concern. "You're not answering anyone's calls," she said, settling into a chair across from him. "I've been busy." "Busy torturing yourself with their social media." She gestured at his screen. "This isn't healthy, Ethan. What's not healthy is my entire family conspiring to humiliate me." He turned the monitor toward her. "Look at them. One big happy family with Aaron playing my role." Natalie leaned forward, her voice gentle but firm. "You need to talk to Sophia at least. She's been calling me, crying. Ethan's laugh was harsh. Was she crying when she helped them hide their affair? When she lied to my face day after day? She's just a child. She's 16, not 6, old enough to know right from wrong." He pulled up another photo, this one showing Sophia and Aaron in animated conversation. "Look how comfortable she is with him. How long do you think this has been going on? How long has he been playing father to my daughter?" Natalie fell silent, studying her brother, the warm, generous man who had helped her through her divorce, who coached his daughter's soccer team, who built his company on principles of loyalty and trust. That man was disappearing before her eyes, replaced by someone harder, colder. "What are you planning, Ethan?" she asked. He closed the browser windows. "Nothing they don't deserve," he said. "That's what worries me." She stood up. "Don't let their betrayal turn you into someone you're not. Maybe this is who I've always been." His smile was razor sharp. "They just never gave me a reason to show it before." After Natalie left, Ethan received another report from his investigator. This one contained medical records, school documents, and a bombshell that shattered his world anew. Questions about Sophia's paternity. He spent hours poring over the records, noting discrepancies in dates, suspicious medical appointments, and carefully hidden payments from accounts he'd never known existed. The truth began to take shape, a truth so devastating it threatened to break him completely. That evening, he drove to a discreet medical facility on the outskirts of town. The DNA test was quick, professional, and completely confidential. As he waited for the results, Ethan thought back to Sophia's birth, to Clara's insistence on using her own doctor, to the subtle comments about Sophia's features not quite matching his. The results arrived 3 days later in a plain manila envelope. Ethan sat in his parked car, rain drumming on the roof as he read the report. The clinical language couldn't soften the blow. Sophia was not his biological daughter. His phone buzzed with another message from Sophia. "Dad, please talk to me. I know I messed up, but I love you. You're my father, no matter what." The irony of her words made him laugh until tears streamed down his face. All those years of coaching soccer games, helping with homework, trying to be the father his own dad never was, it had all been built on a lie. He drove to his parents' house, needing answers. George and Margaret Blackwood lived in a sprawling mansion, their lives displayed in every expensive fixture and carefully curated piece of art. "Ethan," his mother exclaimed as she opened the door. "We've been trying to reach you." He pushed past her into the house. "Did you know?" George emerged from his study, drink in hand. Ethan slapped the DNA results onto their imported marble coffee table. "About Sophia, did you know she wasn't mine?" The color drained from Margaret's face. George's hand trembled, sloshing his scotch. Their reactions told him everything. "How long?" His voice was deadly quiet. "Ethan, you have to understand," Margaret began. "How long?" George stepped forward, ever the patriarch trying to control the situation. "We suspected when Clara was pregnant. There were rumors about her relationship with Aaron, but we thought it would be better for everyone if you let us raise another man's child. If you watched me love her, provide for her, build my life around a lie." Ethan advanced on his father, years of resentment boiling over. "You were so concerned about appearances, about what people would say, that you let me live a lie for 16 years. We did it to protect you," Margaret pleaded. "To protect the family name." The family name. Ethan's laughter was chilling. The precious Blackwood reputation meant more to you than your own son's dignity. George set his glass down with a sharp crack. "Now listen here, son. What's done is done. Clara made her choices, but Sophia is still your daughter in every way that matters. She is nothing to me." Ethan's words cut through the air like ice. "Just like you're nothing to me. All of you, conspiring behind my back, playing happy families while laughing at the fool who didn't know he was raising another man's child." "Ethan, please." Margaret reached for him, but he jerked away. "Don't touch me. Don't contact me. Don't even speak my name." He gathered the DNA results. "You're dead to me. All of you." He strode out of their house, ignoring his mother's sobs and his father's angry calls. In his car, he pulled out his phone and made a series of calls to his lawyer, his accountant, his bank. "I want everything changed," he instructed his lawyer. "My will, my life insurance, my company shares. Remove Sophia from all of it. I want my parents and Clara blocked from accessing any information about me or my assets." "Mr. Blackwood," his lawyer cautioned, "acting in anger might not be wise." "This is not anger. This is justice." Ethan cut in. The following weeks passed in a blur of legal meetings and financial restructuring. Ethan systematically dismantled every connection between himself and his former family. Each signature on each document was another nail in the coffin of his old life. His phone continued to buzz with messages and calls. Clara, Ethan, we need to talk about this. Sophia needs her father. Delete. Sophia, Dad, please. I know I hurt you, but I'm still your daughter. Delete. George. Son. Don't throw away 16 years of block. Meanwhile, Natalie watched her brother's transformation with growing concern. She visited his office one afternoon, finding him absorbed in financial documents. You've lost weight, she observed. I've been busy, he replied without looking up. Busy plotting revenge? She pressed. When he didn't respond, she continued. I know they hurt you, Ethan, but this cold, calculating persona, it's not you. He finally met her gaze. The man you knew died the day he learned his entire life was a lie. This is who I am now. And who is that exactly? Someone who makes sure betrayal comes with consequences. He handed her a document. I'm cutting off all financial support. Clara is about to learn what life is like without access to my money. Natalie scanned the paper, her eyes widening. You're freezing everything. Even Sophia's college fund. She's not my responsibility. His voice was flat. Let Aaron pay for his daughter's education. Natalie, unless you're here to help me, we're done, he stated, turning back to his work. Later that evening, Ethan sat in his empty house reviewing the information his private investigators had gathered about Aaron. The man who had destroyed his family had his own weaknesses, gambling debts, professional rivalries, and a reputation for dating wealthy women. Ethan began making notes, mapping out pressure points and vulnerabilities. He would start small, testing the waters. An anonymous tip here, a pointed question there. He would watch their perfect little world crumble piece by piece. His phone buzzed with a call from Clara again. This time, he answered. Ethan, her voice was hopeful. Thank you for picking up. We need to talk about. Actually, he interrupted coldly. I just wanted to hear your voice one last time before I completely destroy your life. What are you talking about? She asked. You'll see, he said, hanging up with a cold smile playing on his lips. The next day, he began implementing his plan. He contacted Aaron's company anonymously, raising questions about professional ethics and relationships with client spouses. He sent carefully crafted emails to Clara's art gallery, suggesting her recent work showed signs of emotional instability. Small moves, but effective once implemented. Natalie's phone rang again. Clara's hysterical, she said without preamble. The gallery dropped her, and Aaron is being investigated at work. This is your doing, isn't it? I have no idea what you're talking about, Ethan replied dismissively. Natalie sighed. When does it end? When they've lost everything, just like I did, he answered curtly. Sitting in his office later that night, Ethan pulled up the photo album from the Mediterranean trip one last time. His family. No, not his family anymore, smiling and happy without him. He closed the browser and opened a new document, beginning to type. Phase 1. Financial isolation. Complete. Phase 2. Professional disruption and progress. Phase 3. Personal destruction. Pending. The man who had valued family above all else was gone. In his place was someone harder, someone who would make them all pay for their betrayal. Ethan Blackwood 2.0. A man who had learned the hard way that love was weakness and trust was for the naive. As he worked late into the night, his phone slowly filled with desperate messages from Clara and Sophia. He ignored them all, focused entirely on his plans for revenge. The old Ethan might have felt guilt or remorse, but that man had died the day he learned the truth. The new Ethan felt nothing but cold satisfaction as he watched their world begin to crumble. This was just the beginning. The real pain was yet to come. Ethan sat in his home office, surrounded by monitors displaying various aspects of Clara and Aaron's lives. The initial satisfaction of cutting off their financial support had worn off, replaced by a deeper hunger for retribution. On one screen, Aaron's credit report revealed mounting gambling debts. On another, Clara's trust fund statements showed suspicious transactions. His phone buzzed with another desperate message from Clara. "Ethan, please, we need to discuss the divorce settlement." Their lawyer said he deleted it without reading further. Clara's desperate pleas for negotiation now amused him. She had grown accustomed to his money and his lifestyle. Time to show her exactly what she had lost. "Ethan," his private investigator's voice came through the speaker, "I have that information you requested about Mr. Lynn's gambling habits." "Go on." "He's in deep with several bookies. Most significantly, there is a guy named Julian Reyes. Aaron owes him close to $100K. Ethan's fingers drummed against his desk. "Can you arrange a meeting with Reyes?" "Sir, these aren't the kind of people you want to." "Just set it up," he commanded. The meeting took place in a private room at an upscale steakhouse. Julian Reyes wore an expensive suit that couldn't quite hide his dangerous edge. He studied Ethan with calculating eyes. "So, you're the husband," Reyes said as he cut into his ribeye. "Gotta say, I didn't expect you to reach out. I have a proposition." Ethan slid an envelope across the table. "Aaron Lynn's debt. I'll buy it from you. Full amount, plus 20% for your trouble." Reyes's eyebrows rose. "That's generous. But why would you want to help the guy who stole your wife?" "I don't want to help him. I want to own him," Ethan replied, his smile predatory. Understanding dawned on Reyes's face as he grinned. "Now that's cold. I like it." He pocketed the envelope. "Deal's done. Lynn's debt is yours now. What are you going to do with it?" "Let it mature a bit longer. I want him desperate before I make my move," Ethan said. Meanwhile, his investigation into Clara's finances had yielded another promising avenue. She had been skimming from her family's trust fund for years, small amounts that added up to a significant sum. The trust administrators were old family friends who had helped cover up her indiscretions. Ethan composed an anonymous email, attaching bank statements and transfer records that proved the embezzlement. He sent it to all trust board members simultaneously. Within hours, Clara's phone exploded with angry calls from relatives. He watched through the security cameras he had installed near their apartment as Clara paced frantically on the balcony, gesticulating as she argued with someone on the phone. Aaron stood in the background, his own phone pressed to his ear, his face growing increasingly pale as his bookie, now secretly acting on Ethan's behalf, demanded immediate payment. Natalie's number flashed on his phone. He considered ignoring it, but answered on the last ring. "You're destroying them," Natalie said without preamble. "They destroyed themselves. I'm just exposing the truth. Clara's family is threatening to cut her off completely. She might lose her apartment." "Good," Ethan replied coolly. "Natalie," her voice softened, "I understand wanting revenge, but this seems excessive." "Excessive?" He laughed harshly. "They lied to me for 16 years. They made me raise another man's daughter while everyone watched and laughed behind my back. This isn't excessive, Natalie. This is justice. And what about Sophia? She's still in high school, Ethan. Where will she live if Clara can't afford it? That's Aaron's problem now." He snapped, ending the call. Over the next few weeks, Ethan orchestrated a series of small but devastating revelations. He anonymously sent Clara's parents proof that she'd been lying about attending therapy. The receipts she'd submitted for reimbursement were fake. He tipped off Aaron's colleagues about his gambling addiction, ensuring the whispers reached his superiors. Each move was calculated to increase pressure on their relationship. He watched with satisfaction as their social media posts grew less frequent and less cheerful. Clara's art became darker, more chaotic, and Aaron started missing work, spending hours at underground gambling dens that Ethan's investigators monitored. One evening, his investigators sent him a video clip from a high-end bar. Clara sat close to a wealthy gallery owner, laughing at his jokes, touching his arm. Aaron watched from across the room, his face twisted with jealousy. Ethan picked up his phone and sent a text to the number he now controlled. "Payment due in full by Friday, Mr. Lin. No more extensions." He watched as Aaron's expression changed from jealousy to panic. The other man grabbed his coat and hurried out, leaving Clara with her admirer. "Perfect," Ethan murmured. That night, Ethan sat in his study reviewing his progress. Phase 1 is nearly complete, he thought. The foundation of Clara and Aaron's relationship is cracking. Time to accelerate the pressure. He opened his laptop and began drafting a new set of emails, each designed to plant seeds of doubt and suspicion. To Clara, evidence of Aaron's past relationships with wealthy women, suggesting a pattern of financial exploitation. To Aaron, hints about Clara's growing closeness to potential art world patrons. Let them tear each other apart, he declared. Ethan stared at the business card in his hand. Blackwood Investments, specialized art investment opportunities. The logo, a subtle blend of sophistication and reliability, had been carefully designed to appeal to Clara's artistic sensibilities and Aaron's financial aspirations. His team had spent weeks creating a convincing digital footprint for the fake company. Website, social media presence, glowing reviews from fictional clients. Everything needed to withstand cursory due diligence. "The actor is ready for his first meeting," his assistant reported. "Mr. Oliver Dalton, as requested, distinguished, cultured, exactly the type to run a boutique art investment firm." Ethan nodded. In the gallery space, rented for 6 months under a shell company, Dalton said, "We've installed the artwork you selected, including several pieces similar to Clara's style." The plan was elegant in its simplicity. Create a seemingly legitimate investment opportunity, one that would appeal to both Clara's artistic dreams and Aaron's desperate need for financial stability. Let them convince themselves they found a way out of their mounting problems, then destroy them completely, Ethan thought. The first contact came through Clara's art world connections. Oliver Dalton, a sophisticated art investor, expressed interest in her work during a gallery opening. He praised her technique and vision, dropping subtle hints about investment opportunities. Ethan watched through hidden cameras as Dalton worked his magic. Clara practically glowed under the attention, especially when Dalton mentioned potential 6-figure deals. Aaron, hovering nearby, perked up at the numbers being discussed. Blackwood Investments specializes in emerging artists, Dalton explained smoothly. "We identify talented individuals early in their careers, provide financial support and gallery exposure, then share in their success. Your work, Ms. Blackwood, shows remarkable promise." Clara's face fell slightly at her married name. "It's just Clara now." "Ah, my apologies," Dalton said. Dalton's rehearsed sympathy was perfect. Recently divorced. In process. Aaron interjected, stepping closer to Clara. "But we're looking forward to new beginnings," Dalton continued, nodding knowingly. "Often the best time to make bold moves, professionally speaking. Why don't we schedule a proper meeting to discuss possibilities?" The meeting took place at Blackwood Investments' temporary office suite. Ethan watched from a secure location as Clara and Aaron entered the expensively furnished space, their expressions a mix of hope and desperation. Dalton laid out the proposition. Blackwood Investments would provide substantial backing for Clara's art, including a solo show at a prestigious gallery. In return, they wanted first rights to her future works and a percentage of sales. Additionally, Dalton added, noting Aaron's keen interest, "We offer our artist partners opportunities to participate in our investment fund. Many find it mutually beneficial." The bait was set. Now, to reel them in slowly and carefully, letting their own greed and desperation do the work. Over the next month, Ethan orchestrated a series of meetings and minor successes. Clara received a small advance for commissioned works, and Aaron was invited to exclusive investment seminars where other actors posed as successful clients. Their financial pressures mounted in parallel. Ethan's control of Aaron's gambling debt kept him on edge. While Clara's family trust issues remained unresolved, Blackwood Investments began to look like their only salvation. "They're ready," Dalton reported. "Clara is talking about finally achieving her artistic dreams, and Aaron is convinced this is his chance to prove himself financially." Ethan smiled coldly. "Time for phase 2. Start introducing complications." The first hint of trouble came via a regulatory delay. Dalton regretfully informed them that some paperwork needed revision, requiring additional fees. Clara and Aaron, already emotionally invested, scraped together the money. Then came questions about Clara's divorce status potentially affecting contracts, more fees for expedited legal review. Aaron maxed out his remaining credit cards to cover it. "Sir," Dalton's assistant interrupted during monitoring, "Ms. Blackwood's mother is trying to reach you. She's threatening to go to the media about the trust fund situation." "Let her." Ethan's voice was ice cold. "By the time this is done, Clara's reputation will be worthless anyway." He turned back to his screens, watching Clara and Aaron argue in their apartment. The strain showing. Aaron's gambling urges were intensifying under the pressure, and Clara's artwork was becoming erratic, her gallery pieces reflecting her inner turmoil. It was the perfect time to introduce the final push. Dalton called an emergency meeting. "A major investor is interested in backing Clara's solo show, but we need significant upfront capital to secure the venue and promotion. It's a career-making opportunity, but we need commitment from both of you, skin in the game, as they say." Clara turned to Aaron, eyes pleading. Aaron stared at the investment prospectus, his mind clearly racing as he calculated angles and possibilities. "How much?" he asked finally. The number Dalton quoted made them both pale, but Ethan had chosen it carefully. Large enough to hurt, but just barely within reach if they liquidated everything they had left. They signed the papers that evening. Ethan watched via security feed as Clara's hand trembled on the pin, and Aaron's face tightened with suppressed panic. They were all in now, betting everything on this one chance at redemption. Time to spring the trap, Ethan thought. The warehouse stood isolated on the city's outskirts, its industrial facade perfect for Ethan's endgame. Inside, he prepared a simple scene. 3 chairs, a table, and a projector screen. Everything else remained in darkness. Clara and Aaron arrived separately, responding to urgent messages from Dalton about investment irregularities. They found each other in the parking lot, confusion turning to concern as they approached the building's entrance. Ethan watched their approach on his tablet. Clara wore the same perfume she'd worn throughout their marriage, but it smelled different to him now, like decay, like lies. Aaron's expensive suit couldn't hide his nervous fidgeting, the tell of a gambler about to lose everything. "Mr. Dalton." Clara's voice echoed in the vast space. "Oliver." The door was open. "Welcome." Ethan's voice cut through the darkness as the lights snapped on, harsh and revealing. "Please sit down." They froze, recognition and fear dawning on their faces. Ethan emerged from the shadows, impeccably dressed in a black suit that matched his mood. "Ethan." Clara's voice quavered. "What is this?" "Sit down." They complied, the chairs scraping against the concrete. Aaron's eyes darted toward the exit, but 2 security contractors stepped into view, blocking any escape. "Blackwood Investments," Ethan announced with a cold laugh. "Did the name not tip you off? Or were you both too desperate, too greedy to question it?" He clicked a remote, and the projector screen came to life, displaying their signed contracts, investment transfers, and emails full of hope and schemes. "You thought you'd found salvation, but now you are trapped in the holes you dug yourselves into." Clara's art career revived. Aaron's gambling debts resolved. A fresh start for the happy couple. "You wretched scoundrel." Ethan barked at Aaron, who started to rise, but one look from the security men forced him back down. Ethan clicked through more slides. Photos of Aaron's secret gambling sessions, Clara's meetings with other men, separate acts of desperation and betrayal. "I own your debt now," he informed Aaron. "All of it. 1 word from me and your kneecaps become negotiable with Mr. Reyes." Aaron's face went pale. Clara stared at him. What gambling debt? You said you'd stopped. Like you stopped flirting with that gallery owner. Aaron snapped. I saw you with him while I was trying to figure out how to keep us afloat. Keep us afloat? Clara laughed hysterically. You're the reason we're drowning. My family might have forgiven the trust fund issue if you hadn't. Enough. Ethan's voice cut through their bickering. Time for the final act. He drew an envelope from his jacket and slid it across the table. Clara's hands shook as she opened it, and Aaron read over her shoulder. The DNA test results lay stark and damning on the page. 16 years, Ethan said quietly. 16 years I raised another man's daughter, loved her, provided for her, while you all laughed behind my back. Please, Ethan. Clara's voice broke. Did you love me at all? The question surprised him. Or was I just convenient? A stable provider while you kept seeing him. Clara's silence was answer enough. Aaron shifted uncomfortably. Here's what happens now. Ethan's voice returned to its cold register. The contracts you signed, worthless. The money you invested, gone. Your reputations, I'm about to destroy them completely. He outlined their fate clinically, watching their faces crumple as he detailed how thoroughly he had ruined them. Aaron's gambling addiction would be exposed to his firm. Clara's trust fund embezzlement would become public knowledge. Their social circles, professional connections, and family relationships, all carefully poisoned beyond repair. You can't do this, Aaron protested weakly. I already have, Ethan declared, standing. You took everything from me, my marriage, my daughter, my trust, and my family. Consider this your education and consequence. He turned and then paused. Oh, and Aaron, your gambling debt comes due tomorrow. I suggest you start running. Their voices rose behind him, arguing, pleading, breaking down. Ethan walked away, his security team falling in behind him. In his car, he opened his laptop to send the final series of emails that would complete their destruction. The warehouse cameras showed Clara and Aaron still inside, their relationship dissolving into bitter accusations and recriminations. Ethan allowed himself a small smile as he began typing. Phase 2 is complete. My revenge, carefully planned and meticulously executed, has succeeded beyond my expectations. They have taken my life apart piece by piece. I have returned the favor with interest. The last email sent, Ethan closed his laptop and instructed his driver to take him home. Behind him, in the growing darkness, Clara and Aaron's world continued to implode, their dreams and schemes collapsing into ruins, just as he had planned. Ethan sat in his private office, reviewing the latest reports on Clara and Aaron's downfall. His revenge had been executed flawlessly. Their careers destroyed, their reputations in tatters, their relationship crumbling under the weight of mutual accusations and blame. His phone buzzed with a message from his investigator. Mr. Lin spotted at an underground casino again. Lost another $50K. Ms. Blackwood threw him out of their apartment. He deleted the message without responding. The satisfaction of their destruction felt different now. Not hollow, exactly, but complete, like a project successfully concluded. Natalie's name flashed on his screen. He considered ignoring it, but answered instead. Clara is living in her car, Natalie said without preamble. Not my problem, Ethan replied coolly. Then Natalie asked, Did you call for a reason, Ethan? After a pause, he replied, The board meeting tomorrow. Are you really going through with this expansion? The company needs to grow. He pulled up the proposal on his screen, an aggressive acquisition strategy that would triple their market share. Personal issues don't affect business decisions. That's what I admire about you, Natalie said quietly. Even after everything, you never lost focus, never let it derail your goals. Was that ever in doubt? Ethan replied shortly. But some of us worried revenge would consume you, Natalie said. Ethan laughed, a sound devoid of warmth. Revenge was just another project to complete. And now it's done. He ended the call and turned to the stack of acquisition documents on his desk. His team had identified 3 promising startups in emerging markets. The negotiations would be complex, demanding his full attention. A notification popped up. Another message from Sophia. He moved to delete it but paused, his cursor hovering over the screen. Her messages had changed lately. Less desperate pleading and more something else. He opened it. Dad, I know you don't want to hear from me, but I'm starting college next month. Engineering, not art. I got a scholarship. I thought you should know I'm trying to build my own path, not following Mom's footsteps. That's all. Ethan stared at the message. Engineering. Like him. He could picture her, not the daughter who betrayed him, but the little girl who used to sit in his home office, watching him work, asking endless questions about how things functioned. He closed the message without responding and immersed himself in work. The next few weeks passed in a blur of meetings, negotiations, and strategic planning. His company's aggressive expansion drew attention from major players in the industry. Offers to buy him out started rolling in, each one more generous than the last. You could retire, his CFO pointed out during one late-night strategy session. Never work another day in your life. Ethan dismissed the idea with a wave. Money was never the point. He threw himself into new projects, working longer hours than ever. When he wasn't at the office, he hit the gym, pushing his body to its limits. Physical exhaustion helped quiet his mind. His new routine was interrupted one morning by an unexpected visitor. George Blackwood stood in his office lobby, looking older and smaller than Ethan remembered. You can't be here, Ethan told him flatly. 5 minutes, please, son. George's voice shook slightly. Please, son. The word sparked anger in Ethan's chest. I'm not your son. You made that clear when you chose appearances over truth. We were wrong. George stepped forward. Your mother and I were wrong about everything. The way we raised you, the priorities we taught you, how we handled Clara's betrayal. Get out. Ethan, please. We're selling the house, moving somewhere smaller. All those years of keeping up appearances. And for what? We lost what really mattered. Ethan studied his father's face, seeing genuine anguish and a desperate need for connection. Once, it might have moved him. Now, it meant nothing. Security will escort you out, he said, pressing a button on his desk. Don't come back. As guards led his father away, Ethan returned to his work. He had a company to run, deals to close, empires to build. The past was irrelevant. But that night, alone in his penthouse apartment, the emptiness felt heavier than usual. Not regret, for he regretted nothing about his revenge, but perhaps something else. A recognition that destroying his enemies hadn't filled the void their betrayal created. He poured himself a drink and walked to the window, looking out over the city he'd conquered. In the reflection of the glass, he saw himself, successful, powerful, utterly alone. Maybe it was time for something new. A letter arrived on expensive paper, handwritten in Sophia's familiar script. Ethan had seen it coming. His sources kept him informed of her movements, her progress at university, her careful attempts to build an identity separate from her mother. He read it twice. Dear Dad, I've started my 2nd semester of engineering. The work is challenging but fascinating. Yesterday in advanced physics, I found myself thinking about those science projects we used to do together. How you taught me to question everything, to look for elegant solutions to complex problems. I know I heard you. I know I was weak when I should have been strong. Letting Mom manipulate me into keeping her secrets. I'd spent years trying to understand why I made those choices, trying to become someone stronger, someone more like you. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not even asking for a response. I just wanted you to know that the lessons you taught me weren't wasted, that despite everything, you shaped who I'm becoming. Love, Sophia. Ethan set the letter aside and pulled up his investigator's latest report. Sophia's academic records showed top grades. Her social media revealed no contact with Clara, no art classes, no sign she was following her mother's path. She had gotten a part-time job at a tech startup, supporting herself without family help. He opened his laptop and began typing an email. Your midterm project on quantum computing applications showed promise. The approach is innovative, but your energy efficiency calculations need refinement. Here are some references that might help. He attached several technical papers, then sat staring at the draft email. Sending it would open a door he'd sworn to keep closed. But then a knock interrupted his thoughts. Natalie entered, carrying a thick file. The latest acquisition projections, she said, then noticed the letter. Sophia. She's studying engineering. I know, Ethan replied. She calls me sometimes, asking about you. Whether you're happy, if you're taking care of yourself. Natalie interjected. I don't need anyone's concern. No, Natalie, he agreed, but maybe you need something else. Connection. Purpose beyond revenge and business success. Ethan's expression hardened. I had connection once. Look how that turned out. So you'll punish yourself forever because Clara betrayed you? Natalie asked gently. I'm not punishing myself. I'm protecting myself. Natalie picked up Sophia's letter. She's not Clara, Ethan. She's becoming her own person. And from what I see, she's becoming someone a lot like you. Strong, determined, unwilling to take the easy path. Ethan was silent for a long moment. I can't be her father again. Nobody's asking you to be, Natalie said softly. But maybe you could be something else. A mentor, a guide, someone who helped shape her future without dwelling on the past. He thought about the email he had drafted, professional, detached, focused on intellectual rather than emotional connection. Maybe that is enough for now. The acquisition meeting starts in 10 minutes, he said, changing the subject. Natalie stood, recognizing the dismissal. At the door, she paused. You know what's ironic? In trying so hard not to be like your parents, putting appearances over substance, you've done exactly what they did, just replaced their social mask with a corporate one. After she left, Ethan sent the email to Sophia, then immersed himself in work, pushing aside thoughts of family and connection. But later that week, when Sophia's response arrived, a detailed technical discussion of her project, with thoughtful questions about his suggestions, he found himself engaging in the intellectual exchange. It was satisfying. The woman across the conference table was unlike anyone Ethan had met in years. Olivia Chun, no relation to Aaron, radiated quiet competence and unshakable conviction. As his company's new legal counsel, she systematically dismantled his proposed acquisition strategy during the meeting. The approach is too aggressive, she explained, highlighting key points in her presentation, and it opens us to potential antitrust issues and unnecessary liability. Other executives shifted uncomfortably, used to hearing their CEO challenged so directly. But Ethan found himself intrigued. Your alternative? He asked. Olivia outlined a more nuanced approach, equally effective, but with better risk management. Her understanding of both legal complexities and business strategy impressed him. Implementation timeline? He inquired. 3 months longer than your original plan, but with a significantly higher probability of success. Ethan nodded slowly. Do it your way. Later, he found himself staying late to discuss the details with her. Their conversation ranged beyond business to philosophy, art, and literature. Olivia's mind was as sharp as her legal expertise. You've had an interesting career path, he observed. I started in domestic violence advocacy before corporate law. I believe in justice. Sometimes that means helping abuse survivors, and sometimes it means ensuring powerful companies operate ethically. And which am I? The abuse survivor or the powerful company? He asked. Her eyes met his steadily. Maybe both. Something shifted in that moment, a recognition, a possibility. Ethan found himself sharing dinner with her the following week, then the week after. Their conversations remained predominantly intellectual, but underneath ran a current of deeper understanding. Olivia knew about his past. Her due diligence was thorough. She neither judged his revenge nor tried to heal him. She simply accepted who he was, scars and all. "Clara called my office," he mentioned one day. "She tried to negotiate a better divorce settlement." Ethan stiffened. "That's not happening. I informed her that all communications go through official channels." Olivia sipped her wine. "She's living in a shelter now." Aaron disappeared to avoid his gambling debts. "Good," Ethan said. "You really don't feel anything for them anymore." "No," he admitted. "It isn't quite true. I feel satisfaction at their downfall, but the burning hatred has cooled to indifference." Olivia nodded, accepting his answer without comment. Their relationship evolved naturally, two strong-willed people finding unexpected common ground. When Ethan finally kissed her, it felt like a business merger, thoroughly negotiated and mutually beneficial. Natalie was skeptical when he told her, "Are you sure you're ready?" "I'm not looking for redemption or healing, or whatever you think I need. What am I looking for?" He considered. "Partnership. Someone who understands that strength doesn't mean invulnerability." The wedding was small and private, exactly as they wanted. Sophia attended their first face-to-face meeting in years. She was poised, professional, clearly nervous, but determined to maintain boundaries. "Congratulations," she said formally, shaking his hand. "Ms. Lynn's reputation in corporate law is outstanding." "Thank you," he replied. "And your recent paper on quantum encryption was well-reasoned." A flash of their old connection passed between them, not father and daughter anymore, but perhaps something equally valuable. Mutual respect, shared intellectual passion. Clara sent a letter that arrived the morning after the wedding. Ethan recognized her handwriting on the envelope and fed it straight into the shredder. Some bridges stayed burned, but others could be carefully rebuilt. When Sophia graduated summa cum laude in computer engineering, Ethan attended the ceremony. They didn't speak, but he nodded in acknowledgement of her achievement. She straightened under his approval, her professional mask firmly in place. George and Margaret sent congratulations through Natalie. Ethan didn't respond, but he didn't forbid her from passing along news of his life either. Small steps measured in years rather than moments. Olivia understood. She had seen enough abuse survivors to recognize that healing happened on its own timeline. Sometimes it meant forgiveness. Sometimes it meant maintaining boundaries. Sometimes it meant building something new from the ashes of destruction. Ethan built his new life with the same precision he'd used to destroy his old one. Career success, strategic relationships, calculated risks balanced against potential rewards. But now, there was something else too. Moments of genuine connection with Olivia, intellectual exchanges with Sophia, even occasional family dinners with Natalie. Not the emotional intimacy he had once thought he wanted, but something stronger, something built on respect rather than obligation. Clara and Aaron's downfall continued, their lives spiraling into increasing desperation. Ethan neither celebrated nor intervened. They were irrelevant now. Their betrayal had transformed from an open wound to a cautionary tale. He had built something new, entirely his own. Not a fairy tale ending with easy forgiveness, but a calculated reconstruction of a life shattered by betrayal on his own terms. A decade later, Ethan Blackwood studied the quarterly reports on his tablet as his private jet cruised at 40,000 feet. In the decade since his revenge plot concluded, his tech empire had grown exponentially. What started as a successful company had transformed into a global conglomerate with divisions spanning artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and biotechnology. "The Tokyo acquisition is complete," Olivia announced, looking up from her own device. After 8 years of marriage, she had risen to become his company's chief legal officer, her brilliant strategic mind helping shape their corporate dominance. Numbers: 20% above initial projections. Our quantum research division exceeded expectations. Ethan nodded, satisfied. Success had become a familiar taste, but he never took it for granted. The same ruthless focus that had driven his revenge now powered his business achievements. His phone buzzed with a message from Sophia. At 32, she had become a force in her own right. After graduating, She declined his offer to join his company, instead founding her own startup developing revolutionary encryption technology. He respected her decision, recognizing in it the same independence he valued in himself. The message was professional, as their communications always were. Patent approval came through. Interested in discussing potential collaboration between our R&D teams. Their relationship had evolved into something unique, not father and daughter, but mutual respect between intellectual equals. They met quarterly for business discussions, their conversations focused on technology and innovation rather than the past. Sophia's company released their new security protocol. Market response is strong, he mentioned to Olivia. Olivia smiled knowingly. You've been tracking their stock price. It's good business to monitor potential partners. They both knew it was more than that, but neither acknowledged it. Their marriage worked because they understood each other's boundaries. Olivia never pushed him to be more emotional, more forgiving, or more normal than he was comfortable being. The jet began its descent into Los Angeles. They were attending a major tech conference where both Ethan and Sophia would be speaking. He on artificial intelligence ethics, she on quantum encryption. Their sessions were scheduled at different times, maintaining their carefully constructed professional distance. Natalie met them at the hotel, now serving as the conglomerate's chief strategy officer. She had proven invaluable during their expansion, her insight helping navigate complex corporate politics. Clara tried to contact the office again. She reported quietly that Ethan's expression didn't change. The same response as always. The years hadn't been kind to Clara. After Aaron abandoned her, fleeing his gambling debts, she had struggled. Her art career never recovered, reduced to teaching basic classes at community centers. She periodically attempted to reach out, seeking financial help or reconciliation, but Ethan's stance remained unchanged. Her messages went unanswered, her calls blocked. Her existence was acknowledged only as a cautionary tale. She's working at a small gallery in Seattle. Natalie continued, living in a studio apartment, barely making ends meet. Not our concern. Aaron's fate had been even more dramatic. His gambling addiction and mounting debts had forced him underground. Last reports placed him in Ho Chi Minh City, running small-time scams to survive. The man who had helped destroy Ethan's family had himself been destroyed by his own weaknesses. George and Margaret had indeed sold their mansion, downsizing to a modest condo. They sent periodic messages through Natalie, expressing regret and seeking connection. Ethan never responded directly, but he quietly ensured their retirement accounts remained stable during market fluctuations, not forgiveness, but a cold acknowledgement of biological reality. The tech conference concluded with record-breaking partnership announcements. Ethan and Sophia's companies led the headlines, their collaboration promising to revolutionize digital security. Industry analysts praised the strategic brilliance of their alliance, unaware of the complex history behind their professional interaction. In their penthouse that evening, Ethan and Olivia reviewed the day's developments. Their conversation moved efficiently between business topics, their personal lives so integrated with their professional goals that no separation was necessary. The market response exceeds projections, Olivia noted, studying the preliminary reports. Sophia's team delivers results. The partnership will be profitable. They didn't discuss the emotional implications of working closely with his former daughter. Such conversations were unnecessary. Olivia understood that his validation of Sophia's success was based purely on merit, untainted by their past connection. Natalie joined them for a late strategy session, bringing the quarterly family update she had compiled. Clara, still teaching art classes, financial situation unchanged. Aaron, last seen in Bangkok, running small investment scams. George and Margaret, health stable, retirement adequate. And Sophia, company valuation up 40% following the partnership announcement. Ethan scanned the information with the same attention he gave market reports, noting relevant details and dismissing emotional implications. The past was useful only as data, not as a guide for future actions. Their lives had settled into a pattern of controlled success. Ethan and Olivia's marriage operated like a well-structured business partnership, each contributing their strengths toward shared goals. Their influence grew steadily, their decisions shaped by logic rather than sentiment. Sophia's company flourished under her leadership, her innovations driving technological progress. Their quarterly business meetings were models of professional interaction, focused entirely on strategic planning and market analysis. The betrayal that had once consumed Ethan's life had been transformed into a foundation for greater achievements. The pain hadn't disappeared. It had been repurposed, converted into drive and determination, fueling his relentless pursuit of success. The empire he had built stood as a testament to his transformation. From a successful tech entrepreneur to a global power player, his influence extending far beyond personal revenge. His name now represented innovation, power, and uncompromising standards. Those who had betrayed him served as footnotes in his story, cautionary tales about the price of disloyalty. Their fates demonstrated the consequences of crossing Ethan Blackwood. Yet he had moved so far beyond mere revenge that their suffering was almost incidental now. His new life, built on the ashes of betrayal, stood as a monument to power, not happiness in any traditional sense, but something more valuable. Absolute success on his own terms, unburdened by emotional complications or false obligations. The sun set over the city skyline, painting the penthouse in golden light. Ethan stood at the window, Olivia beside him, both focused on their devices as they coordinated the next day's meetings. Below them, the city pulsed with energy, unaware that many of its digital interactions were shaped by technology he controlled. This was his real revenge, not just destroying those who betrayed him, but transcending them so completely that their existence became irrelevant. He had turned personal pain into professional power, emotional betrayal into empire-building motivation. The boy who once valued family above all else had become a man who valued control and success. The transformation was complete, irreversible, and entirely by his own design. And that was enough. Thanks to everyone who took the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed it, please consider liking and subscribing if you haven't already. Feel free to share your thoughts on the events in the comments below. Take care.